I'm delighted to welcome today Jeff Lloyd, who is a hypnotherapist and an author. Welcome to the podcast, Jeff.
Hi, Elaine. Nice to meet up with you at last.
E-meeting these days, isn't it?
That's right, yeah. Safest way.
So whereabouts are you based, Jeff?
I'm in Ashton and Makerfield, near Wigan, and I also work from Southport.
Okay, that's in the UK for our overseas
Merseyside, Southport.
Okay, so that's northwest. Marvellous. And as listeners will know, I'm in Portugal, in the Algarve in Portugal. So the wonders of technology that we can talk to one another side by side.
Amazing, yeah.
Fabulous. So you're a hypnotherapist and an author. So which one do we talk about first, Jeff? Hypnotherapy or authoring?
I'm tending more to writing now, but writing about being positive and how we can help ourselves with the self-talk we do, because a lot of the self-talk we have is all negative. Like, I'm hopeless, I'm useless, I should have done better. And it's just the simple things. By changing that self-talk, we can change our lives dramatically.
Where does the self-talk come from, Jeff?
It comes from our childhood. When our parents or other siblings tell us we're hopeless, they're in competition with us, or our parents put us down, say you'll never amount to anything, you'll never be any good. And from the ages of 0 to 7, our subconscious mind is like a sponge, and it takes all that in and it stays with us for the rest of our lives unless we deal with it. So if you're having problems later in life, or you find you're sabotaging yourself, you'll find it will probably go back to your childhood.
So you say that if you're having problems later on in life, how do people kind of wake up and recognize that the problems that they're dealing with as they go through their life actually stem from the childhood? People who do personal development work will understand this, but for kind of the general public, it's probably sounding bonkers what we're talking about here. Okay,
the way most people come to me is they'll come with anxiety, or they start having panic attacks. And this may happen in the 40s, 50s, or 60s. And they'll say, I don't understand it. I'm fine. All my life's good. I've got a good relationship, got a house paid for, everything's fine. But I've started getting anxiety and panic attacks. And what happens, I've found during the years, especially we British, we're told to have a stiff upper lip and just get on with it. And so when we go through trauma in our lives, especially at a younger age, we tend to put it to one side. And then we get married or have a partner, have children. And quite often it's when the children have left the nest and there's that big empty void that they start getting anxious and panic attacks. And when we delve into it, we find out that there's a problem they've never dealt with, or an issue that's never been dealt with, and they've just put it to one side. But it always comes back to haunt us in the end if we don't deal with these things. Or it could just be someone being, I've had a lot of successful people in who sabotage themselves. And it can be something, as I said earlier on, a parent or a sibling just saying, you're stupid, you'll never be any good. It can be that simple. Sometimes it's really complex, but other times it can be quite simple. So can you define anxiety for us? We're hearing anxiety. Every street corner there's somebody with anxiety at the moment. So we've never heard so much of the word. What actually is anxiety? Well, anxiety is normally when we go out of our comfort zone to deal with things when it tends to be a bit irrational. Maybe we find becoming overwhelmed with things that normally wouldn't bother us. And especially now, we're getting bombarded all the time from the media. Someone put it, I've seen on YouTube, it's like the state of verbally abusing its population. It's like if you imagine we've got a relationship with our leaders, and it's almost like abuse, because anything we don't do what they ask us to do, we're being castigated for. And it really is like abuse in the relationship. And so that's causing a lot of anxiety. I've seen more children over the last few months. I've never dealt with children before. Mothers and fathers are bringing school children to me because they're getting anxious because they're hearing all this thing from the press, being forced into having vaccines, which should be an individual's choice. And so these are the things that are causing anxiety.
So you mentioned panic attacks. So for people who've not experienced a panic attack, what is a panic attack? How does that manifest? What does it look like?
A panic attack can be completely disabilitating. It can actually literally floor you, where your heart starts pounding and you feel you can't do anything. I actually was on holiday a couple of years ago, and I was in the airport, and I seen a person who'd been staying at the same hotel, and she was really frightened of flying, and she was stood and against a post and couldn't move. Her heart was thumping, and she said, "I can't get on that plane." Now, although it says in the introduction I'm a hypnotherapist, I also use other techniques, and one is called EFT, which is emotional freedom technique. And it's absolutely fantastic. It's so powerful. So I literally tapped this lady out of her panic attack, and it took about 3 minutes. And then I spent another few minutes getting rid of her fear of flying. So that's a panic attack. It really can be debilitating.
Incredible. EFT is extremely powerful. So emotional freedom technique, for listeners who've not come across this, it's very popular and very simple way. Once you know the technique, you can do it yourself. You know, if you're you're in a shopping line and you're anxious, maybe you've got somebody waiting for you outside and the shopping's taking too long to get through the checkout or whatever, you can do it in the shopping line. Put your hands behind your back and you can tap on your hands, on your fingers.
That's right.
As opposed to doing, all the meridian lines, all the rest of it.
That's right. Well, it says I'm a hypnotherapist, I'm a jack of all trades, really. In my therapy sessions, I always do the EFT first, and then reinforce what we've done with hypnosis, because I try and teach the client how to tap. And as you say, it's very simple, just tapping a few points on the face and fingers. And it gives the client the power then to move on. Because in a normal counseling session, you would have a session, because I've had counseling before I started doing all my work. It's then I realized I needed help many years ago. So when you have a counseling session, and there's nothing wrong with counseling, it suits some people, not others, you're left all week for everything to mull over and go round in your head. Well, between my sessions, you've got a tool which, if things crop up for you, you can actually deal with yourself or attempt to deal with. So it's a fantastic tool, and it's a lifelong tool. And as you know, you can use it on anything, phobias, pain, anything.
It's remarkable. I've used it on and off for years, and I had a therapist recently described it to me as acupuncture without the needles.
That's right, yeah. Yeah, that's how I describe it.
Yeah.
But I don't actually advertise it because it's not that well known. And if I said EFT, nobody would know what I was on about. I think a few people are getting more aware of it, but they know it as tapping.
Mm. Yeah.
So it really is powerful.
At the end of the day, it doesn't matter what any of these techniques are called if it works for the person. And as a seasoned professional therapist, you'll know what's appropriate for people as they come through the door. I'm sure as soon as they walk through the door, you've kind of got an instant feeling about which of your resources is going to be suitable.
Well, it's, as a therapist, what I've found nowadays, people don't phone. They tend to text or get you through Facebook. So you have that. I've lost that initial contact, which I used to be able to gauge people. But as soon as somebody walks through the door, it's looking at their demeanor and then listening to what they say, how they verbalize things. And yes, so as soon as they walk through the door, I'm already working on them, though they don't know it.
I have the same thing. When you know, you can't unknow, can you? So
no.
You know, I'll be sitting in I don't know, because I live in Portugal, then it's kind of outside life. I might be sitting in a cafe, you know, having coffee, watching the world go round, and then I'll be, you know, looking at people and kind of sussing them out in my mind as to, you know, what's wrong with them, because I'm you know, a health mentor, and how I might help them and so on. From afar, you know, sending them energy and this kind of thing. It's sometimes we get in our own way as well, don't we?
Sometimes, Elaine,
yeah. So author. So what have you written, Jeff?
I've written a book called The Satnav Guide to Your Soul.
Oh, I like that title.
I'll show you the book if I can. That's it.
Ah, The Satnav Guide to Your Soul, Jeff Lloyd. How can people obtain that?
It's on Amazon.
And when did you write it?
I wrote it about 6 years ago, because people are always asking me about spirituality, because another thing I do is past life regression, which we can talk about in a bit. And I find a lot of the books I've bought on spirituality are quite complicated. A bit of a heavy read. So I just wanted to write something that was simple and got straight to the point. And I've had this guide called Aaron, who I knew in Egypt, and I do automatic writing. So I sit down and just let him come through and write. So he writes all these beautiful things. And you might have noticed I do post them on the LinkedIn site. Things like, I'll get one out now.
So you're channeled. So Aaron comes through.
That's right.
Sort of channeled through you, which again, for some of the listeners, think we're barking mad talking about this, but
right.
It's
well, here's one now. The vastness and beauty of the universe is small when compared to the vastness and beauty within you all. So he gives me little insights like that.
Beautiful.
So really, the first part of the book is a bit about my life, how I got into spirituality. And it's just trying to make everything succinct, and the Satnav Guide to Your Soul is, we've all got contact. It's there. If we sit in silence and get rid of all the chatter, we have all the answers we need. We have all the knowledge inside of us. So it's about listening to ourselves, our inner speak. Instead of all that negative chatter, that I am useless and hopeless, we listen to the silence. It takes a bit of practice to get into it, but you don't have to sit cross-legged or go up a mountain or be a vegetarian for 10 years. Anyone can do it. You can do it in your armchair. Just go out for a walk and do it. That's the beauty of it. You have that inner power. We all have it. And we can use it to heal ourselves.
Absolutely.
And move forward with our lives. It's fantastic.
I struggle with the meditation where you sit there and you know, well, I used to think that meditating was sitting there cross-legged with your fingers together, you know, going on. But of course,
That's right, yeah.
not. And then some time ago, a lady who did meditation said to me, "You actually meditate, Elaine. What you do, you actively meditate." So for me, I might be driving or in the shower or gardening or walking or whatever. So I'm in silence with myself. And when you, as you say, when you don't have the external chatter, then you can listen inside. It's like there's a saying, I think, the silence is deafening, and it's just remarkable that as you say, everything is inside of us. And I say that with the health mentoring that I do. We have the power to heal ourselves from the inside out. And all of the mentoring that I've done over the years and volunteering, helping people with cancer, the thing that stops them healing is the emotional stuff, the 0 to 7-year-old, the 0 to 20-year-old, if stuff's happened, they've gone off the rails as a teenager, whatever it is, it's always past stuff that has got in their way now and is holding them up from healing every single time.
That's right. People don't realize it, but it's a very hard thing to say, I know, if people are suffering and whatnot, but we create most of our illnesses through the subconscious mind, through those old fears and difficulties we've been through. And that's where EFT is great, because it releases you of those old fears and traumas and allows the body to heal itself, which is really how the body heals. It can't heal because we're all vibration, and the mind and thoughts are vibration. What happens if we don't deal with stuff? It goes into the subconscious mind, and that vibration then manifests in the body. And if you've got a lot of negative vibration in your body, it's got to come out somewhere. It's funny, always funny to me with doctors, they'll admit that stress causes a heart attack. But you say stress will cause cancer or other things we think about may cause an illness. They won't accept it. I just find it amazing.
Well, we know that their training is totally different to the natural training that many of the practitioners that we would connect with do. But it's all about money, isn't it? Follow the money, and then you get the answers. So I get quite frustrated about it. And I tend to get people come to me when everything's failed. Oh well, we'll try this stuff. So what I've done now, I've brought science into what I do. So I have a blood analysis, I have a hair mineral analysis, a metabolic analysis, and a behaviour profile, and all of that shows the client exactly what's going on in their body. They can see the reports for themselves, bar charts, pictures, goodness knows what, so they can actually see. And when they say, well, the doctor's not found anything, well, they're only testing for specific things. They're not looking in the right place. They're not looking in your whole body, and they're only looking for specific little things. And thyroid is a typical example. The number of people who say they've got an underactive or an overactive whatever, and that is a typical example. The stress levels and the thyroid function is completely in line with one another. So your stress is up, your thyroid's underactive. It's not rocket science when you know what's what, but most people aren't taught this, are they?
No, they're not. It's like, I remember watching a documentary on, funny enough, the BBC, poo-pooing the back flower remedies and such, because they were saying it's so diluted they couldn't find any trace of it. Well, the reason they weren't looking for vibration of the flower, they were looking for a chemical. Yeah. And it's that really made me laugh, that they were looking in the wrong place.
Yeah, absolutely.
Find the answer.
You mentioned past life regression. Let's talk about that. What is past life regression?
How long have we got? It's an absolutely amazing subject. Obviously, in the West, we tend to believe we have one life and then you die and that's it, because of Christianity. But of course, millions and millions of people, like Buddhists, believe in reincarnation. And people come to me normally out of curiosity to see if they've had other lives. And it's not normally the one they think they've had. It usually ends up somewhere totally different. But you can, what I found, you can heal through past life regression. I had one woman come to me and she had back pain and she didn't know how she got it or where it was coming from. And she was about 35 years old. But she only told me that because she, you know, she's a bit sat down a bit gingerly. And so we did the past life regression, and it went to another life she'd had where she'd fallen off a horse when she was 35. And that's why she was getting the backache. And once that had come out into the conscious mind, then the pain went. So it's absolutely amazing. It can heal you. The other thing which is a part of past life regression is spirit release. Quite often when I put people under hypnosis, they show signs of having spirits attached to them, disembodied spirits who they attach to a person's vibration. So if someone's depressed, or especially people who work in hospitals or care homes, they'll tend to have spirits who will attach themselves to them. And that's quite funny. And it was frightening at first when I first did it. But the spirit will talk through the person. So you can have someone with, say, a real strong Liverpool accent will start talking with a Geordie accent or a London accent. And once you talk to the spirit, then you ask them to look for the light, and you guide them to the light, and off they go. And often when the person comes round after hypnosis, they say, what was all that about? But they feel lighter. And these spirits that are attached, they can make you have sort of traits. I'm trying to think, or phobias. You might have a fear of water, say. That was another interesting case. I didn't tell you that one. A chap came to me, had a fear of water, and it turned out his father had died in the Second World War. He was on a ship that got torpedoed in the Atlantic, and he never met his son because he was born, you know, after. And so his father had attached himself to his son, and that gave him the fear of the water. So once we released his father to go to the light, the fear of the water went. Wow. It was a fascinating subject.
Incredible. I've a few months ago, where are we now? Thinking where we are. Yeah, so earlier on, I think it was earlier on this year or maybe late last year, I had a chakra healing session with a lady, and she was doing past life regression as she was going through the chakra healing. This is all online, and she was clearing the chakras and releasing any you know, past trauma or whatever, and threads that she called it, different threads that were kind of attached. And I have 3 past lives apparently that she picked up anyway, but other people said, oh no, we have way more than 3, but she happened to pick up 3, and each of them I was in a completely different environment. And one of them I was a man, and then 2 I was a woman, but you know, top and bottom of the kind of economic scale, should we say. So my behavioural profiling, which is what I've specialised in for 20 something years, I've got a very resilient, strong behavioural profile traits. So I've put down the fact that I can mix with lord and ladies and homeless and drug addicts and everybody in between. and I've put that down to the benefits of my flexible behavioural profile. But when I then look at the past life regression, I've had so much experience of being in any, you give me a situation and I'll be fine in it, I just adapt. So I think, a lot of it actually is what's come with me, in the past. It's fascinating. And the more we explore this, topic, the more everything makes sense.
Yeah.
So how did you get into this then, Jeff?
Well, I did a course in late 90s called Psychology and Healing. So I did that for 2 years. And I wanted to do something else. And then I seen a course local to me for past life regression. So I thought, I've got to do it. I've always been interested. So I joined that. And because that involves hypnosis, I decided then to carry on to do the hypnosis course. And then on the hypnosis course, we did a bit of EFT. So I did the EFT course, and on it goes.
Brilliant. So, but in a former life, I mean, have you ever had a real job, so to speak?
The real job. Yeah, I worked down a mine as a child in the 1900s. I was in the Battle of Trafalgar on one of the galleons, got killed there. I haven't had a good life, really. Good lives. But that was interesting. That when I was on the ship, I was crushed on the chest by a beam, and I was born with asthma, which I perhaps put down to that. But although I know that, it didn't sort of cure the asthma. But I think sometimes it's heal thyself, isn't it? Sometimes you need somebody outside of you to do the healing for you.
And also things that we're born with can come from our mother or our ancestors as well, can't they?
That's right. Some of it's hereditary.
So in this life then, Jeff, what did you do in this life before you got into the hypnotherapy and EFT, etc.? Right.
Well, I was a landscape gardener. And after 30 odd years, I started falling to bits, basically. My back started going, tennis elbow, then I had slip disc. And I thought, I've got to get out of this. I can't do this forever. And I'm glad I did. And that was, I started in the late 90s, but sort of really went to town in the noughties. Got into it more. So that's what I did. So I had that lovely connection with nature and how amazing nature is. And for whatever we do, it'll always surpass man. Whatever we do, we'll only leave a slight trace on it, even if we kill ourselves in the process. The plants will overtake the world again. So it's not going to be the end of the world. It might be the end of us because of our pollution, the way we treat it. Because people forget the planet is a living thing. And I always feel we're just like ants on its back. And if it wants to, and I'm sure it's done it before, it'll just tip over and we'll all go and it will all start again.
Sure. Mother Nature is a force to be reckoned with. We can't argue with it. We can't change it. It is what it is, isn't it? And all this malarkey about climate change and this and that is it's to an extent it's a bit silly in my mind, because whatever you do, you're not gonna, you can't argue against nature. Just follow nature. Don't work against it. Follow it.
That's right. Well, if anyone wants to watch a guy called Greg Braden,
yeah, wonderful.
He'll tell you all about the planet and how we've been here before. But the heating is is caused by solar flares and the sun, and it all goes round in cycles, and we're just in one of the cycles at the moment. It was doing it before we were here, and it'll do it after we've gone.
Yeah.
And so if anyone wants to check up him, I really recommend him.
Yeah, absolutely. I've followed him on and off. And also there's a talk about the grand solar minimum, which with the climate change people never talk about. And it's a natural phenomenon every 200,000 years. As you say, it's happened before, it's going to happen again. And it's not the warming, it's the freezing that's going to be the problem. It's going to be the cold weather.
That's right. And there is proof. There's ancient civilizations have been here before and have all been wiped out.
And they've all had free electricity as well, which has been hidden from us. Yeah.
So I think we're pretty arrogant sometimes to think that we're the be all and end all.
Well, I think yeah, there's we could talk about this forever and a day. We're obviously on the same page, Jeff, which is comforting to know, because there aren't many of us out there who are happy to talk about this kind of stuff. Most people, my family included, think I'm a complete embarrassment because my views are, you know, not with the narrative, not with the mainstream narrative. So therefore, I must have lost the plot and gone bonkers. But
that's it. Don't mention the family.
No.
In fact, the people who run away from me the fastest and furthest are my family. If my sister had a toothache about 3 weeks ago, and I said, "Let me get rid of the pain for you.
Yeah.
I'll tap you." No, it's all right. I'll take an aspirin.
Yeah.
So that's what I get. But I find it quite funny. So what I did, and anyone who knows EFT, I tapped in the armchair while she sat there, unknowingst, and her pain went.
Wow. Wow.
So they can't get rid of me.
Yeah, but vibration, frequency and all that stuff is phenomenal.
That's right. We're all connected, obviously.
Yeah. So remind us of your book title, Jeff, so people can find it.
It's the Satnav Guide to the Soul.
Marvelous.
If anybody's not sure what a Satnav is, it's a GPS. No, Americans don't quite know what a Satnav is.
What do they know? Okay, Satnav, satellite navigation.
That's right, yeah.
So Satnav Guide to the Soul, wonderful. And do you have a website? How do people get hold of you, Jeff?
At the moment, the main one is hypnotherapywigan.co.uk.
Okay, that's easy to remember. hypnotherapywigan.co.uk.
Yeah.
Brilliant. On one final note, what would the older Jeff Lloyd be saying to the younger Jeff Lloyd if you were giving yourself advice to your younger self? Is there any advice that you would give, or would you just kind of just gone on as you have gone on?
That's a hard one for me, because I think I wouldn't be where I am today, and because I'm quite happy where I am today, if I changed anything, then I wouldn't be who I was today. In saying that, I'd say to myself, I suppose, don't give yourself such a hard time. You're actually quite a nice person, in fact, a lovely person. Because I spent years beating myself up, I'm sure most people do when they're younger, because we're all pushed to achieve this, do this, have that. And then you go through a divorce, and then you feel you're not good enough or whatever. So it's just about be kind to yourself, really. Don't be so hard. You're doing your best with the tools you have at that time.
Exactly, yeah. And that's all we can do.
Yeah, so it's no use beating yourself up now for how you were when you were younger, because you didn't have the tools you have now.
And that's all we can do. It's all anybody can do. We can't undo what's happened, but we can accept and acknowledge what's happened, but not kind of keep dwelling in it, you know, not be victim to it. Just, okay, fair enough, that happened. This is what I did. That's what I knew at the time. Now I would do something different potentially, but we can't undo it, can we?
No, that's right. Try not to put labels on the past. Say, I went through this awful experience. Just look at it as experience, because whatever you went through would have changed you into the person you are now. That's if you're happy with who you are now.
Absolutely. I'm a great believer that life is full of stepping stones, and kind of lily pads, and we'll hop on here and we'll hop on there, and might stay in that one for a long while, and then we'll see another one over there, we'll hop on that, and we get it introduced to people on the same frequency as us, and the doors open, don't they? As long as you're not, you know, I don't think we need to push on any doors to open them. They'll open themselves when they're ready.
That's right. When you look back on your life, it really is like a jigsaw, isn't it? It's just all these little pieces fit together and form that picture of your life.
Yeah.
And even the, you know, the bits of your life you may not have been happy with or struggled with, they've made you, and probably made you stronger for it. Yeah,
absolutely. Absolutely. Well, it's been a pleasure speaking with you, Jeff. It's lovely to meet you. And hypnotherapywigan.co.uk for anybody who'd like to connect with you. And the Satnav Guide to Your Soul is on Amazon.
That's right. Thank you, Elaine. It's been lovely to meet you.
Fabulous. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for interviewing me.